All right, everybody, I'm introducing the next project for our portrait painting class, and this is a Blue Period inspired painting. All right, so when I say Blue Period, I'm talking about something like what we see over here on the right here with Picasso. All right, so um, I'm not necessarily wanting us to go off of Picasso's concept, the meaning behind these paintings. Like, it doesn't have to be a sad and depressing painting, but I'm talking about his thinking about the color in these paintings. All right, so I have here a Van Gogh piece on the left, a self-portrait, and a Picasso piece on the right, portrait, not a self-portrait, clearly, right? And each of these has an overwhelming tone, or as some artists refer to it, a mother color in this. The one on the left is very green, all right? The tones on this painting, on the actual skin color, they are very, very green. However, they look natural because of the context. The entire painting is very green, especially the background on that piece. So in context, with that background, the colors of his face look quite warm and natural, and that's because they exist in a green world. All right. Imagine if you went to a nightclub and they just had these bright green lights on in this nightclub, and everything was bathed in this green light. If you looked at someone in the nightclub, their skin would still seem like natural colored skin to you. They wouldn't seem like a green-skinned alien, right? It's just because you exist in a green world. I don't know if that's a great analogy or not, but that's what we're going for. All right. So here I'm going to talk about the basic assignment prompt. I'm going to show you a little bit of process of how I went through this, and then at the end I'll give you a little history and context about Picasso and the Blue Period. All right. So the basic prompt is to choose your period, aka what color are you going to use? So are you going to go through a blue? So Picasso, for example, had a blue period and a rose period amongst his other periods of, Cubism, etc. Right? And you're going to use that as your main color, right? It's optional to do an underpainting, a monochrome underpainting with that color. And then you're going to, when you get your paint out on your palette, you're going to mix that color into everything on your palette. All right, so just show you what I'm talking about. This is a little sketch I did with some oil paint, and this is a monochromatic underpainting with only that color. So this is phthalo blue. I covered my little canvas entirely in phthalo blue, and then I used my rag to wipe out some of these lighter areas. Right, so this establishes the context, right? So if we look back at these, right, remember how I was talking about Van Gogh, and that all of his skin tones are wildly green, but they don't look out of context because of the green of the background, and everything is green, right? So here I have toned my entire canvas with this phthalo blue. I've wiped out with a rag, pulled out some of those light areas. If you are an acrylic painter, you can start in this way. You'll have about, if you use that golden open medium, you'll have maybe half hour to 1 hour to do this before the paint dries. And when that happens, if you want to continue in your underpainting, I would use white. So if this were an acrylic painting, I would take white and mix it with the phthalo blue to get varying degrees of light and dark values with white and phthalo blue, and then just continue on that way since you would no longer be able to wipe out. Right? So this is just to kind of establish, the face proportions, the likeness of whoever I'm trying to paint, get the features right. It's easy to change your mind when you don't have a lot of paint on there, so that's why I do this, right? And then, the basic continuing on, get out your palette and mix that color into everything on your palette. So you can see, I regrettably did not take a clear picture of my palette when I was doing this, but you can see over there, the colors that I used are titanium white, Naples yellow light. So we can see here we have Naples yellow light. There's some burnt sienna, and this right here is a color called Naples yellow reddish, which is kind of like a peach type, band-aid type color. Then I took my phthalo blue and used my palette knife to mix it into each and every one of these colors. All right, so if I had this crazy blue color here, and I just put a little bit of, burnt sienna, white, yellow, ochre, and put it on here. Oh, my dishes are done. If I just took that color and put some, a mixture, Naples yellow light, burnt sienna white, if I put it on here, it would look wildly crazily hot in this blue context. It would look out of place. It would look like neon pink right? And it would not look natural. So by taking my palette here and mixing the phthalo blue into each of these colors, then it's going to look more natural when I put this on here. And then the finished piece, I don't know if I completely finished it, but you could see as I worked along, I left, looking at Van Gogh's piece, I left the kind of whites of the eyes, since they're in shadow here, the kind of like the background color, and I think it worked out nicely. All right, so here we have a Picasso painting from his Blue period. This painting is called The Soup. Now, if we look at these skin colors, they do look somewhat natural to us. However, if I use my selection tool here on that skin color, and then I just come down here and color with it, we can see that this color looks like a weird greenish gray, right? However, just to show you, if I bring this color up here and put it there, you can see that is that color, right? But it looks to be like a warm color in context with everything else on this painting, right? So everything else is so blue that this weird gray color appears to be a nice warm skin tone. All right, so if I select this right here, color with it down there, even if I go for the warmest part of her hand right down there, look here, okay, it's a kind of a neutral brown chocolate milk color. However, if we look at it in context on that girl's hand, it does look to be very warm, right? So it's within the context of this. Now, if I go to the little shadow on her face under that eye right there, we could see, ooh, yes, very, very blue, right? So in order to get this effect on your painting, you're going to choose whatever color is going to be your mood or your period, whether you want to have a blue period, rose period, green period, etc., and mix that color into every other color on your palette, all right? Let's take a look at some more pieces here and just kind of clear these layers. This fun Van Gogh piece, very, very green, right? It does look to have, the skin color does look natural to me. Let's look at some of this over here. Let's make this bigger. All right, so we have this shadow color on his forehead, very green. Let's go for the light mass on the nose, very green. All right, you're starting to see a theme here. Let's go for this light mass here. It's kind of a peach color, but I can see some green in there myself. Let's go for the highlight color on the edge of the nose there. We also have this minty kind of like, mint ice cream kind of green. The reddest part I see, the warmest part in between the lips, if we look at that, this, it looks pretty hot. It's kind of, I could see that as a burnt sienna with a little green in it to get that darkness. And then over here on the ear, the tiniest little bit. Okay, so you can see how, if you had all of these, colors you're going to use for the skin tone. So some burnt sienna, white, yellow, ochre. Look at the white of the eye here. It is dark turquoise green, okay? So even on the shirt, it looks kind of like a nice, white colored shirt, but the light in shadow masses of the shirt. So here's our palette for creating this painting, all right? And again, if you had some white, maybe Naples yellow, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, umber, I could see mixing a little bit of green into every color on your palette to get all of these colors on your palette to paint this, okay? Another Picasso piece, I'm sure you will believe me, but let's just do a little bit on here. So our shadow mass of this woman's face is that color. Now, that looks to be really dark, but that's what color we have over there. Now, it looks light in relationship to that hair, which is very, very black. Let's look at the light mass on the cheek. Let's look at the highlight. The chin is the largest highlight area. The warmest part, the lips. Of course, we look at that and we think pink. However, that is as warm as we get. Right there, let's try it again just to make sure. I'm trying to get the warmest part. That is the warmest, the absolute warmest color on this painting. All right, so I'm just going to go through and show a few more examples. These are mostly Picasso pieces, and then I'm going to talk about a little bit of history behind these. All right, so on the left we have, so these are both Picasso portraits. The one on the left is from his Blue period. The one on the right is from his Rose period. All right, so one thing I do want to say is that color and the effect that color has on you, it could be very personal, it could be a cultural thing, right? So blue, a lot of people think, oh, blue, sad, right? But you know, that's something from our culture, especially, you know, having grown up, interestingly enough, with something like Picasso's Blue Period, blue having a sad connotation to it. You know, what if, you know, there was some other culture, like a Pacific Islander culture, where they thought of blue as the color of the ocean and the sky and something relaxing and happy, right? So there could be a cultural context, a personal context. I had, you know, if you think of the color red, you know, you may think of it as something like, oh, you know, passionate, or, you know, maybe since it's the color of blood, maybe violence or anger, we associate with the color red. Whereas I had a student once who had a painting they did in red, and this student was Chinese, and they talked about red in their culture being a lucky color. The colors red and yellow or gold, and red having a kind of like happy, lucky kind of connotation. All right, so if you do a blue painting, just because you enjoy the color blue, it doesn't necessarily mean that your painting is sad or depressing. You know, blue happens to be my favorite color, right? But just be aware that other people viewing your painting may put their own personal interpretation of it that has to do with their personal experiences, their reaction to a color, and also whatever culture they're coming from. All right, so you know, the one on the right, clearly, you know, there's a lot of red and pink mixed into the skin tones. I also want to say you don't have to go full-on realism with this, or for any of my assignments, really. Picasso definitely, you know, he was trained as a, you know, I don't want to say realistic, but in, you know, the classical atelier tradition as a teenager, and it's widely known that he departed from that more and more and more as he developed his own personal artistic voice. All right, so here we have one on the right from his Blue Period and one on the left. This has got to be my favorite Picasso painting ever, the one on the left. Garçon à la pipe, or Boy with a Pipe. That one is known as from his Rose Period. Look at this boy holding a pipe, and look at the crown of flowers on his head and the beautiful flowers in the background. All right. Now here we have one on the left from Edward Munch. He did, you know, a few variations of, you know, the Scream. This one is called the... you know, honestly, I forgot the name. I saw the name of this. It's a very sad name, but, you know, you can see the bright pink, red, orange tone permeating that painting on the left. Over here on the right, Mother and Child by Picasso from his Rose Period. Right. I tried to find all different kinds of paintings. Here's one on the left from 1907, František Kupka, The Yellow Scale. I love this man and the look on his face in his yellow robe, yellow chair with his yellow book and a yellow background. And then on the right we have a Paul Gauguin self-portrait, very, very permeated by yellow. Look at the skin tones. Look at the skin tones here. Here, even in the shadow mask, everything is very yellowish here. This Gauguin here, for example, I would say would be orange. Yes, this is very blue, but I would guess there's some orange mixed into it. All right, a couple of Picassos known from his Rose Period. A couple more Picassos. You know, this one on the right, I've had it many times, but just kind of comparing. The one on the left here looks to me like some sort of mixture of charcoal and oil paint, like we did for our previous project. All right. Picasso piece. This is the same painting, just the one on the left is more close up. This is from his Blue Period. Totally gorgeous painting, I think. Anyhow, you have the option of doing a master copy, or kind of painting from your own photo reference, whoever you want, but using a kind of color palette from someone like, you know, Picasso, Van Gogh, Gauguin, any of these ones I showed you, or any that you came up with on your own. All right. Or you can just do a straight up master copy, right? Master copy is easier because at least you have some sort of reference there, all right? But then you also have the added difficulty of having something to compare yourself to, right? Picasso is an amazing painter, and everyone knows the struggle of doing a master copy, so it's a trade-off, right? If you're more of an experienced painter, I would encourage you to kind of come up with your own painting, but if you think it would be better for you at this point in time to do a master copy, then whatever you feel like you want to do, right? Now, just to share again how you could take a reference photo and manipulate it to your liking, I'm here on my iPad, which would be, you know, the same as something on an iPhone. For you people who have a phone or tablet that is not Apple, I apologize, I don't know how to do it, but you can see that I have down at the bottom these little icons. The one with the little sliders right there is the one I chose, and now I can adjust this. So I'm going here on the right, going through all of these till I get to this colory one, which is the saturation. All right, so I can turn it down, we go black and white, or I can turn it way more, and look at that, it's exaggerating. So this is normal, it's exaggerating the color saturation there, right? I can go here to the warmth and turn it up or down. So if we go up, we get hotter. If we go down, we get colder. All right, so either way, depending on how you want to go, if you want to go colder, let's go colder just for fun. And now tint takes us to red or green. So I could go red, and I'm sliding down to go green. All right, so these are different ways you can play with, let's go warm, and let's go back to warmth and go warmer. Ooh, that's a little crazy, but how fun of a painting would that be? So actually, in case anyone was wondering, this is an old fragment of a Greek sculpture where the eyes had inlaid metals that have kind of rusted over the centuries and millennia and just had these like drips down the marble, and I think it's a very enticing image. If we go back to saturation, we could play with that as well. Vibrance, I don't know exactly what vibrance does. But anyhow, you can play with this. Let's see, what do we have? Sharpness. I don't like sharpness. Noise reduction will make it smooth. It's not very conducive to a painting. Right? Vignette just blurs the edges like that. So anyways, using the photo adjustments, we also have filters. So if I cancel these, discard changes, look how boring it looks. And I go over to the left, we have these filters, and you can just choose some different filters. Most of them keep somewhat of the original color. Vivid, no. Vivid, warm, dramatic warm. I like this one. And now I can go and adjust. So if I go back to the ones with the colors, warmth, let's kick up the warmth to 100. Tint, let's have red tint. What happens if we go green? I like red tint. And then we go to saturation and can bring up the saturation. All right, I also like to go to the black point, make the shadow side darker. Brightness, I take down a little. Contrast, you can think about how, So anyways, you can take a regular image of your friends and family and turn them into a rose period or green or blue period reference just by editing the photo in your phone or iPad or any tablet. A couple more Picasso paintings. The one on the right, it's a very Indian red or Mars red, earthy type red, sanguine color. You could see how the shadow masses are very hot. The light masses look, somewhat hot-ish as well. The one on the left, we can see that Picasso does have some sort of cold blue underpainting. If we look around this boy's mouth here, we can see that he's putting these warm skin tones on top, but that blue is kind of shining through there. Right? Couple Picasso paintings from what's known as his Rose period. Especially look at the one on the right. It's a totally gorgeous painting, right? Not super realistic, very expressive brushwork, very, very hot. The hotness permeates everything in that piece. Right? A couple more Picasso pieces from his blue period. These are from his Rose period here. He did paint circus performers here, so I'm guessing these are all the people from these paintings are like either the same boy in both of these. All right, and then we have back to this one here. All right, so I'm going to go into a little bit. So I have some text that I pasted from various museum sites with the links here, so you can read more about this if you want. So I'm not going to go. You can go ahead and pause this if you want to read the text. But this, Picasso's blue period originated when he was going through some personal issues himself, but also he's trying to convey a mood, right? So if we look at this painting here, The Old Guitarist, his posture is extremely exaggerated, right? This is, we could see the hole in the shirt on this fellow's shoulder. Picasso is trying to convey a sense of suffering, poverty. You can see he's exaggerating his posture in a way to convey this man's pain, both his personal and physical pain. And the blue color is, it's a sort of, it's sort of an over-the-top way of trying to convey this mood and this tone that Picasso was trying to go after, right? So it says here from the Art Institute of Chicago that Picasso personally understood the realities of being poor, having been nearly penniless during all of 1902. Right, and this here is from Wikipedia. It says that these are now, today, some of his most popular works, although he had difficulty selling them at that time. Right, and nobody wanted to buy these paintings because they are very somber, very, very sad, and surprise, not a lot of people wanted to buy them. All right, so his subject matter, painting poor people, suffering people, starving people, the subject matter and the using these colors to kind of convey the subject matter and things like this with exaggerated posture, right? And this all, I wouldn't say it stemmed, but it started when his close friend Carle Casagemas committed suicide, right? And this is the first paint. So this is not really classified as one of his blue period paintings, but this is the one that started it all. All right, so this is a posthumous portrait of his friend called Death of Casagemas from 1901. And we can see that it's lit by this candle. So we have this yellow light falling on the form, but everything else is in darkness, right? So we get a sense that this is happening at nighttime. And we have these cool, this does not look like a person who is alive, and indeed he is not alive, right? This is after he committed suicide. But we have all of these kind of cool green and cool blue tones. They look even cooler in the context of this hot, hot, hot red background, right? And it's from here where he moves on to his blue period, right? So even though this isn't considered like a blue period painting, this is the one that kind of, you can see how it stemmed out of this one. All right, so again, I'm not just going to read this to you, but you can pause if you want to read it. So his subject matter turned to the poor and outcast people of society, and he's trying to convey a sense of hopelessness and anguish and suffering. All right, and again, he not a lot of people went and bought these. All right, so. The fact that he painted these, again, this is from Wikipedia, the fact that he painted these subject matter in this color made him poor himself. So, again, I kind of stress on what I said at the beginning of this lecture. The reason, Picasso's blue period might actually be one of the reasons that we associate blue with sadness and despondency and depression, just because it's such a part of our, at least for me, having been an art history student, I don't know about everyone else here, but I feel like the blue period and, subject matter such as this is one of the reasons blue is thought of as sad because of Picasso. But that, if you choose blue as your color does not necessarily mean you have to make a depressing painting. You can make a happy painting that could be blue, right? I'm just going to really quickly just show you. Right, so we can have, something like this. Look at these people. This would be the perfect subject matter for a blue painting, and it's not sad or depressing at all, right? Something like this, something like this. I think, finding an image like this would be a fantastic subject matter for a piece like this. She looks happy. I'm just giving you the history of the blue period, just because I enjoy mixing art history in with my lectures a little bit.